that brings me to our program, and you're going to have to bear with me because we have a really interesting speaker, and he just gave me his bio before I got here, so right when I got here, so I'm going to kind of read here. Captain Kevin W. Collard, hiding in the corner back there, is a master on the Manitoba. That's the name of his ship. It's 607 feet long. It's a bulk grain freighter operating on the Great Lakes. He was born and raised in St. Catharines, Ontario, and he started his sailing career in 1977 as a dishwasher on Upper Great Lakes Group's Seaway Queen. He attended Niagara College and earned a navigation degree and a master near coastal license. During the winters, he worked as a search and rescue, survival, and firefighting instructor for the Canadian Coast Guard, and he's had some serious experience in that field. He later was called in 1993 to Massachusetts to serve as director of operations for a shipping company, and he managed their global operation. And his work there took him as far as the Panama Canal, Germany, Norway, the Philippines, and South America. Not a bad job to have and get to go around the world. In 2008, he was called back to Lone Lakes Towing, the company where he serves now, and was promoted to captain on the Manitoba. And he operates on all of the Great Lakes and is licensed to pilot in the St. Lawrence Seaway. He lives in Massillon. Who knew you could live in Massillon and do all these things? And we're proud to have him as a Macedonian. He's played hockey for most of his life and is a gold level 5 USA hockey coach. He coached and assisted Akron University during its first 2 years with their hockey program, and he enjoys playing hockey, target shooting, and spending time with his new wife, Rachel. Captain Kevin Collard.
Okay, no pressure. I'm not really a guest speaker. I'm a boat guy. I think I could tell you. I don't know if we have enough time here for an hour, but I could tell you about one sailor for an hour. That's easy for us to do because there's a plethora of stories about everybody that you work with. Sailors' favorite things to do are to talk about other sailors. So when we're on the bridge of the ship, we're going, oh, there's that guy over there. Yeah, you know what happened to him last year? And it goes on and on and on. But it's funny because we don't ever bask in the misery of another person. Because the industry is, it's changed a lot over the years. The industry, things change, I guess. They're always changing. The industry's changed a lot. Nowadays, the companies push us harder. We have less time to do things. So people say it's not fun anymore. It's not true. It's lots of fun. It's lots of stress. It's lots of effort. And sometimes on the boat, we say 80% of the time we're doing 20% of the items. And then for 20% of the time, we're doing 80 things all at once. So when you're getting ready to leave port or something, everybody's like, get this done, put the hatches on, you got to get the lines let go, get the deckhands out, we got to get ready to hose down, we got to start moving, let's go, let's go, let's go. And you have to do all that without getting anybody hurt. So the companies push us and they say 15 minutes matters, 15 minutes matters. Really, all we are is a transportation company. We haul cargo all around the Great Lakes, up and down the St. Lawrence River, and for the betterment of all of us around. The company that I work with is a Canadian company, and they are the only company that has a Canadian and a U.S. fleet. So our U.S. fleet is run by American captains and American crews, and I don't think we have too many sailors around our area. Although I've met lots of guys in the room here that have been on ships or had shipping in the past, and so that's kind of neat. But the other side of it is the Canadian fleet, which is all Canadian sailors. So we don't want to butt heads with each other. We kind of compete against each other to be more efficient, but we're unified in our job. And the reason they set that company up that way, there's other companies that are just U.S. and companies that are just Canadian. And we set that up because of the Jones Act. You can't go U.S., 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 U.S. on a Canadian ship. You have to go U.S., Canada, U.S., Canada, and keep trading back and forth. Same for the American fellows. So this way, when we have both companies both sides of the border working, we can do that. And we can manipulate where our cargoes are going, and it's made us much more efficient. The problem from my side of that is I always have cargo on the boat. I never get to go anywhere without any. So you have to go and get some, and as soon as you get it off, you immediately reload. Like in Cleveland. You can bring stone into Cleveland, and you unload the stone, then you immediately clean the ship out, turn it around, take it back into the Cargill elevator, load salt, and off you go to Canada. So we have literally hours of time to be prepared for the next cargo, which makes it very aggressive. On other trips, you think, well, you're going to unload here, you're going to sail for 2 or 3 days, clean the boat up, have something to eat, get a nap. You know, naps, that doesn't happen anymore. We can work 16 or 18 hours straight. So I can call somebody out for work and say, okay, you're up. 16 hours, 18 hours you work, and then I am required by law to give her 6 hours rest. But at 6 hours and 1 minute, get back out there. And then you're back out there, and then I can work her for 10 hours. And then after 10 hours, I have to give her 10 hours off. Then, right back into the 18. So very exciting. So we can work our guys very hard. The problem is that, and I don't want to speak anti-company because I am company. Efficiency matters, that's what makes us have jobs. If our company does well, we get more ships, we get more people working, so it's all for the betterment of everybody. And I'm a stern captain, but I'm a very, very fun captain because you have to have some enjoyment out there, and people shouldn't be under pressure every day of their life. So I find a lot of the sailors are sacrificing all the time. They're sacrificing because they're away from their families, they're missing Christmases, they're missing their children when they learn to walk. So even right now, I mean, the Great Lakes are froze up for the most part. There's probably still some trade out there, but there's boats all over the world. When you sit down for Christmas dinner with your family, I'm probably working. So nobody ever thinks about the sailors at that time, but right now, all over the world, they're all over the place and they're all out there on ships. So on ocean contracts, they go for about 6 months at a time. I have a good schedule right now. I have a fantastic job right now, actually. I'm working 1 month on and 1 month off, and then I get 3 months off in the winter. You guys do the math, that probably puts me under 6 months a year work. But the thing is what we do, we work hard when we're there, and then when we go home, we get to play or do what we want. Like I said, I'm not a guest speaker, but I've had a very neat career. I started when I was 16 years old on ship. I was 5'5" and 125 pounds. There was 34 men on the ship. They were all way bigger than me, and most of them drunk. So I learned to fight really quickly, and I fought through about my first 5 years of sailing. But I went back home after my first 5 weeks. I was a dishwasher, and I went home and I said, Mom, I said, I just love it out there. It's just great. I mean, everybody's like, you know, they're just doing it, and it's, you know, and I thought, you know what, I manned up immediately. So I was 5'5", 125 pounds, I was a dishwasher. The next year I wanted to be a deckhand, I wanted to be tougher like the guys that were walking around with, you know, rugged clothes on. And so I got on the deck and I started decking, and I went up to the wheelhouse and I said, Cap, I said, I was just wondering what do I have to do to become a wheelsman on one of these boats? And he said, well, you're going to have to learn how to make coffee or learn how to steer, and you're going to have to learn how to make coffee. And not necessarily in that order, so you might want to get back there on that coffee pot. Well, then I became a wheelsman. So I was a wheelsman at 17 years old on the ship, and I wasn't very big, and I had a same sense of humor I carry now. I don't think I've changed that much over the years. A few years later, I've been wheeling, and then we had this old fella come on. His name was Huey. I don't remember his last name, and you know, he's a great old guy, but he was just past his time. The industry was down on the officers, and so they were bringing guys out of retirement, and he was a very old guy, and of course I was a savvy, young, new technology, full of technology, which we didn't have. We thought we had technology, but we didn't. We were just the kids. And every generation says the same thing about the last generation, you know, oh, those kids. Right? Well, I'm sure they were saying that about me. Anyway, I looked at Huey and I said, you know what? I could be his boss. I don't know what he's my boss for. So I went off to college that year, and I studied through college to get my third and second officer's papers. And I was very happy when I got it. It was a winter navigation school. And if you've ever heard, I'm going to throw some sailor. By the way, I'm not doing any of my talk so far. So I'm what they call a hoss piper. And on the ship, the anchor, you probably all know what a ship's anchor is, but the chain goes up through what they call a hoss pipe. And a hoss piper is somebody who's climbed his way up through the hoss pipe to become a skipper. So nowadays, there's no more hoss pipers. They don't have very many winter schools where you can train. So what we get now are we get kids that go to college and they can train in college right out of high school. And they usually take about 3 years. They do some time on the ship and some time on school, and they study and they come up. They're pretty smart. Now the technology's different. Now everybody's got iPhones, and like when I started sailing, we had a VCR. We were like really happy, you know. Well, good, we watched The Jerk 18 times, you know. I remember when I was a kid, I used to sit in the ship and I'd say, "Are you kidding? You can get a man on the moon," which they should have never done in the first place because you can compare everything to that. But we got a man on the moon, but we can't get TV on Lake Erie. You got to be kidding. Now we can watch a video anytime we want. It's ridiculous. But the technology's changed a lot, and so has the industry. We went from 34 crews. My ship now has 14. So we're doing the exact same job. We're doing it more efficiently. We're doing it faster, and we're doing it safer with 14 people on the boat. So who's on the ship? We have a captain. And just so you know, I'm going to get this cleared up right now. All right? I don't steer the ship. Everybody goes, "Oh, how do you do that driving?" Well, I have a guy that does that, which is great, because every time he hits something, I go, "What the heck's wrong with you?" What I do is I pilot the ship. I pilot the ship down the Seaway, and I have to know every turn, every mark, every call-in point, and every course that I'm steering from Lake Superior all the way down to Montreal. I have to know it in the daytime, I have to know it at night, I have to know it in both directions, and I have to know it when there's bad weather. And if you think about it, it's funny, because you think, what's the worst thing out there in the ship? I mean, when we're going across the lake, it's like this. It's just a nice big room, and we just sail along, look out the windows, we look for things, we go, "Oh, there's a boat over there," turn a little. But when you're dialed into a canal or a seaway or something where we're driving these ships, and to get an idea of them, they're twice as long as a football field. So 2 football fields end to end. And you have to drive that boat, and this fellow here, he asked me if they bend in the middle, which is would be really nice on some of them corners. Right? But they don't. They're made of steel. No, they don't. It's a shame. So we have to be very dialed in. And you never know the guy that's coming. We all have licenses, and we're all professionals out there. We sure want to think we are. But with fatigue and mistakes and human error, I'm going to tell you I guess I'll finish one thought here to get to the next. You have to be very cautious. And some guys aren't as good as others, and inexperience comes into effect. You can literally go up on the bridge and have a third officer who's just come out of school, and he looks and he sees the ship 8 miles away. I guess it would be this case if he's, and he sees the ship, and he looks at it, and he can see in his instrumentation that there's a collision course that could happen, could occur. And he'll stand there and watch it happen, and he'll watch, and he'll watch, and he'll watch. And you say to him, "What are you going to do?" And he goes, "Well," and they're kind of scared to alter the ship because it's so big and it's so intimidating. Even to young guys, it's intimidating, even when you're trained. And you have to think, turn. And by the rules of the road, there's specific ways to turn and times to turn based on what situation are between the 2 ships, whether he's passing, leading, coming from your starboard or coming from your port, and who has the right of way and who has to give way. And the rules are really weird, because if you are supposed to give way and you don't, then it's his obligation to turn. So some guys can go, "Wow, I'm turning, he'll turn." Well, that's not going to work, because if it gets too close, you can't turn them fast enough. And I see we're being videoed, so I should probably just say this here out front. First of all, I'm a sailor. I say bad things. All right? I'd like you to think that I'm just a nice, awesome, smooth-talking guy, but I'm not. We regress at the drop of a hat. Okay? I was talking to my wife the other day about doing this, and she was going, "Why don't you tell the story about it?" And I said, "No, we can't tell that story. We can't tell that story. There might have been something illegal in that one." So, I don't know who's in here. If there's anybody in here from the Coast Guard, I play my cards, right? I think that's kind of the way you have to put that up. I think I'm going to try to give you a little bit about ship construction, and let's see what we have here we can give you. The Great Lake, start on the ships. Twice as long as a football field, 75 feet wide. The locks in the Seaway are 80 feet wide. So we got 2.5 feet on either side, and there's concrete. And it's funny because I come from Niagara Lake. I'm from Canada originally. And I ended up moving to Boston in '93 for the ocean shipping job. And that took me all over the world, which I have some fantastic stories I can tell, some other stories that I can't. And I'd be more than happy. I've written a few down so we can get to them. I ended up here in Ohio, which is fantastic. I'm a local here now. I live in Massillon. And when I got asked to do this, I was very honored by it. As a matter of fact, thank you very much, George. You've introduced me to the museum here, and I think these people put on a great show. I hope that I can give you what you want out of this. But I was very honored for a couple of reasons, mostly selfish. I don't know anybody in Massillon. I just moved here. So I think I made a whole bunch of new friends today, except for those people over there because they came from an hour and a half away, so they're probably never going to come and see me. Anyway, this is very good for me because I get to be part of the community. I thought that this was a great thing that we have this museum here. I've had a brief tour of it. So what I did was I called the company that I work for, and I asked them, because I know a lot of people in the shipping like to come on the ships. Well, you can't come. So the rules are, we don't have passengers. There's no passenger paying voyages on a work ship. But we can have guests. So the company has offered up a trip for two that the museum is going to raffle off between now and, I don't know, sometime in the summer or something, in order to raise some funds for the museum. And then two people will be drawn out of that. I think that's what they're doing, is a drawing. And they're going to, then you can come on the ship and you can ride with us. And we have pretty nice quarters, and we don't make you work. You also, you don't have to do dishes, and you do get 3 meals a day. So it's not a bad gig. People that come on the ship, they tend to just love it. Because it's not like a cruise. Let's face it, cruise ships are great. My dad took me on one, and he was like, "Kevin, did you go up to the bridge?" And I went, "Nope." He said, "Why not?" I said, "Don't care." He said, "Well, don't you want to know where we're going?" I said, "Nope, I know where the casino's at, and that's good enough for me." He was like, "Why don't you go up there?" I said, "I don't care, port, starboard, forward, aft, it does not matter." I mean, when you work on a boat, it doesn't matter. But the Great Lakes ships are fantastic because you go on there, and it'll just be you, and it'll just be the crew. And then you get to hear some of the stories that you can't hear here. But you get to see the guys work, and you get to understand the kind of men that they are. We always tell the girls, if you're not dating a sailor, up your game. Right? Sorry for all the guys. I don't need to be in a fight, but if I do, I'll get my crew. Now, the men out there work. It's changed so much over the years. We used to have fellas that come out there, and you know the old story, you go to a bar and you get too drunk and somebody hits you in the head and you wake up on a ship. And that's what my mother always told me was going to happen to me. But I started when I was 16, and it didn't happen to me. I got on here and I found this love for it. But nowadays, it's not the same. We all have iPhones, we all have computers. The guys are loyal to their wives, they believe in their children. It's just like everything else, except it's on a boat. So we have to change our perspectives of things. You're working with guys that you don't know, nobody comes from your hometown. It's all a bunch of guys that are put together. And the lazy guy nobody likes, and quite frankly, we don't have time for it because there's only 14 of us. So the people that have to work harder. So everybody is up their game, up their game, up their game. And it's really, for me, over the years, I found that the industry has gotten that much better. You know, you don't have guys that are, now the guys will go out and they'll get a little bit tied on, and the next day you wake them up with a bucket of water and everybody laughs because it happened. But it does not happen often. It's, the industry has just gotten to be very professional. And the kids that come up through school are funny because they're different. I started when I was washing dishes and I became a sailor. and I became a sailor, and then I wanted to become a captain. Nowadays, the kids go to school not knowing what they want to do, they learn it, then they come on the ship and they're educated, but they're not sailors. So then they find 1 or 2 years later, they don't like it, oh my gosh, I miss my girlfriend, I gotta go home. Really? You know, so it's kind of different that way. I'm not saying it's better, and I'm not saying it's worse, because I think the kids need the education, and things are more technical now, right? So it's different on the ship than it used to be, but I think that it's an improvement. So we got some things. I was going to see if I could find them. I probably can just riddle them all off for you, but when we talk about the ships and the ship construction, there's bulkers. I work on a bulk freighter, and so we carry large volumes of cargo that is not packaged. They just dump the canola seed in there. They dump it in, dump it in, dump it in. And on the Kaministiquia, which is this boat here, it's Kaministiquia. Try to spell that, or say it when you're drunk. Comes out Kamanama, Nimanama, right? They put 25,500 tons of cargo on that boat. Now, and that's one voyage. And we take that from Thunder Bay, which is the way up here on Lake Superior, all the way down through the system, and straight out the end of that chart. So we do 4 lakes. We skip Lake Michigan because you don't have to go across it to get from Superior down. And we take that all the way down, they unload that. Then they'll put that maybe on a boat that's going to Italy. They send it over to Italy, they turn that soybean or canola seed into canola oil, then they ship that back here, and then you buy it and you use it in your frying pan. Right? Now, 25,000 tons of cargo, how much cargo is that? That is a train about 5 miles long. Now, they call it the H2O highway. The Great Lakes system is called the H2O highway. I don't see it up on the lakes, but in the Welland Canal and down the Seaway, they have signs and posters and stuff that say that for the tourists. We don't call it the H2O highway. We got to work. But if you think about it, a truck carries about 35 to 60 tons of cargo. 35 tons. So if you took 25,500 tons of cargo and put it in transport trucks and then lined them up, there would be a line of trucks all the way down there, all burning fuel, all on the highways. So we are probably the most economical, the most efficient, the least harm to the environment to move that cargo out of our Great Lakes to the ocean, because we do it in such volume with one engine. So, a couple things about the boats. The Kaministiquia is about a 20,000 horsepower ship, and the cylinders in that ship are about this big around. So, I think it has a 6-cylinder in it. This ship over here is the Ambassador. It was originally the Canadian Ambassador. And it's a little bit different than the Kaministiquia. It has a boom on it. That's called a self-unloading ship. So this ship actually has a system of conveyor belts underneath it. And when you get into port, you pick up that big boom and put it out over the side. It's 250 feet long, and you can discharge your cargo into a hopper or into a building or into an open pile. A lot of times, like the road salt that we take out of Cleveland, we'll take that out of Cleveland, Ohio, run that down to somewhere in Canada so they can put it on the roads to rust all their cars. And then you just dump that on the dock, and then they'll cover it up with a big piece of plastic to prevent the rain from melting the salt. And we go back and we'll take 6 or 8 or 10 cargoes to a specific place, and then they use that through the winter to truck out to get it. So from, I don't know if you know about the salt mine here, but there's a salt mine here in Cleveland, and that strain runs all the way up through the Great Lakes. Wow. All the way up through the Great Lakes. It goes up from Cleveland right up to Windsor, and then it goes up to Goderich. And you guys, there's probably a lot of you that know about that. But if you go on, look on the website or on Google, you could see that out under. I always tell everybody, you're taking all this cargo. There must be some big hole in the ground somewhere. Well, there is, and the salt is under Lake Erie. So that mine goes way out under there. We go in there and just take ship after ship after ship after ship. We can load in Cleveland in 10 hours. Go in, load the ship in 10 hours, take it in out of the Cleveland, and away we go. We put that on the dock, and we'll come back and get some more. Back and forth, back and forth. So the industry is great because we have all kinds of iron ore up on Lake Superior. We have all the grain moving out of the prairies that we take out. There's stone, all kinds up along in the middle there of the Great Lakes, top of Lake Huron, which is all your concrete, all your road, and that's what we use for all of this area. Done. The salt we take up to Michigan, because as far, we can only get that salt this far, and then from there it has to be trucked to the west. So wherever we can use the ships to do that. So there's a lot of cargo. Cargo, each ship out there is carrying about 2 million tons, 2 to 3 million tons of cargo a year. And there's a whole bunch of boats. So we got the supplement motors, the boat motors, there's tankers, we carry a lot of fuel. I always worry about helicopters, I think it's the Coast Guard. I always wonder if they check and see if I got any oil coming out of my stern tube. If you notice, when I talked about the ships and the size of them, the amount of cargo.
Okay.
Number 3, I told you things just keep changing.
Microphones, Kevin.
You might want to get them. I treat this like my hockey sticks. My dad used to hate this. Could you just pick a cheap one and not break it? It's pretty funny when you talk about that. Okay, a couple things I want to tell you. There's port and there's starboard. I guess y'all know that. You know how you tell the difference? Port's got 4 letters and so does left. Right? So there's a bow and a stern. It's not a front and a back. And my wife told me I'm not allowed to tell you there's a poop deck. What do you think happens there? It's a deck on the back of the ship, and now they say a big wave can come over and poop you, right? But I don't think that's exactly why it was originated. I think that's where they went back in the day, and then they thought it would wash out. I told her it's probably not a good idea to go to the washroom on the front of the boat. So they have all these terms on the ship. A porthole is round. You know why portholes are round? So the water doesn't hit you square in the face. We don't have fence posts on a ship. We have stanchions. I'm trying to think some more of the terms here for you. We have all kinds of them. There's many things that you have to say. Oh, I'll tell you, there's a couple of funny ones. The word posh. The word posh means well-to-do. And you don't think that word, where did it come from? Why does everybody say posh? Well, back in the day when people went on cruise ships, they'd get on in England, and they'd ride down the coast on a cruise, and then they'd turn around and they'd come back to England. So when they bought their ticket, if they had lots of money, they would say, I'll take a ticket in posh. And they would say, what's that? Posh, port out, starboard home. It meant you had enough money to sail on the port side of the ship so you could see the scenery on the way down, and you'd move to the starboard side for the way back. The guy with the less money, there's no word for it. It's just starboard out and port home. There's no word for that. It's just not as much money, I guess. So that word has stuck with us for years and years and years, which is kind of neat. We have all kinds of terminologies. The cat and nine tails is also another one that brings a word to mind. Is back in the day, which is really strange. Back in the day, we used to whip sailors. Military did it, and civilians did it. If you didn't do what you were told, they tied you to the yard arm, and they whipped you. Or they hang them from the yard arm, they call it. They had whack the plank, keel haul. Those are all things that are in my industry. We used to kill each other. When I started sailing, I could punch a deckhand in the mouth. If he was a bad guy, you just give him a smack and say, smarten up, we're not going to have that kind of stuff on the boat. Nowadays, they sent a thing around last year, I'm not allowed to cross my arms and stomp my feet, because that's too upsetting to somebody. You've got to be kidding. So my crew, they all laugh at me, because sometimes I come up with words like, oh my gosh, that is grueling. And that's about as bad as you can get. You're not allowed to be mean anymore. So it's changed a lot over the years. But the cat and nine tails used to be held in a bag by the captain. It was literally a handle with some whips on it. And if somebody was out of line, they would say, oh, get the cat out of the bag. And to this day, cat out of the bag means you've been caught. Right? So that's also a sailing term. I have another one that Margie told me I'm not allowed to tell because it's got a bad word in it. Maybe we could tell it and leave the bad word out. It's a crazy industry. I mean, a lot of what we do all the time comes from sailing. And like I said, we're all out there on the boat just doing our job and working to feed our families. Back in the day, they used to haul manure. And manure makes methane gas. So they put that down on the bottom of the ship's holds, and on the voyage, that gas would build and build and build, and one little spark, and it would blow a hole in the side of the ship. course, that wasn't good for the voyage. So they used to stamp it, stow high in transit. And they load that up in the top of the ship. You're starting to figure that out, eh? And then higher, put it up in the top of the ship. And then on the voyage, you could open up hatchways and some of your decks and let that gas off so the ship didn't blow up. So people would come up and they'd say, hey, I see you're carrying a load of stow high in transit. So that word stuck with us for a long time too, and it's a sailor story. You can believe that. So let's see what else we got here for you. Okay, ships roll and they pitch. Rolling is side to side, and pitching is front and back. So when you're pitching up and down in the Seaway, you would do this way. If you're rolling it side to side, we avoid it. The Great Lakes, we make jokes. There's captains say funny things, by the way, because we get to say whatever we want and we're right. It doesn't matter. My crew said, Cap, how old are you? I said, 38. They said, no, you're not. I said, look it, I'm Skip. I'm 38. So then I'd be telling them a story some other time, and they'd say, so you were driving when you were 2? So what are you doing, the math? Leave me alone. Right? But you get to do what you want. So anyways, one of the things we get to do is we watch our weather patterns, because weather is critical. You don't want to beat up your ship. You don't want to have any loss of cargo. And you sure as heck got to worry about all those lives on the boat. And as much as I'm being a very casual guy, and I am very casual on the ship, as long as everybody is doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing all the time when they're working. And all that means is dialing in and being focused. The ship is big, it's long, and you don't get to change your mind. You can't bump something. You can't run aground. The ships, like I told you, are 2 football fields long, 75 feet wide, and we have a draft restriction of 26 feet 6 inches in the Panama Canal. So there's a bunch of boat under the water. And you think, this is kind of funny, I'm trying to think of some stories that are good for you. The boats get pushed down. And if you ever think about that's going to be the best analogy, but if you think about a beach ball in a swimming pool, you push it down. The further down you get it, the harder it is to maneuver. Well, we literally load the ships till they're on the bottom. In Cleveland, we load it till it touches the bottom, and then we back it up with the wires in the engines, put a little bit more on, back it up, put a little bit more on, back it on the slip, and then we go. And once we get off the dock, then we go out. So we push the ships, we load them to their absolute maximum amount, and then we sail. Now, the Panama Canal has a restriction. There's a restriction up in Sault Ste. Marie. It's called the Rock Cut. And there's a restriction on Lake Michigan, right about there, and called Gray's Reef Passage. And those are determining by the water level and the chart sounding. So the chart says 26 feet. There's 2 feet of water level rise. So now we know we can load it, or there's 28 feet of water there. We want to keep at least a foot, foot and a half under the ship for transit, because the ships, when you drive them, they squat. They actually drop down in the water a bit. So when we get into a place, and if you think about it, it's getting this dicey, we're moving the ship along at 10 knots. We're coming into one of these areas. You reduce the engines. You drop the speed. You drop the speed. You try to get that boat. You put your depth sounder on, and you try to just go over that shallow spot with enough clearance of not touching. Because if you touch, you can hold them. And then once we get out, we push up the speed again to carry on. So it's very critical that you know the shallow spots. And you have to keep a very good eye on the radio and on the water levels to know that what we're sailing and where we're going is still within the limit of safety. So pushing it all the time. I got a couple pictures here. I don't have too much time left. I got a couple pictures here. The Saginaw is going on. That ship's awesome. It's about a 16-knot ship, which is one of the fastest on the Great Lakes. It's over 60 years old now, and it's a moneymaker. And that boat, you work. The boys that come on there, we had a kid come on that ship. He got on the back of the ship, carried his luggage up forward, put it in his room, went back out, looked in the cargo hold, got on the ladder, got in the car, never saw him again. And he's not the only one. We've had lots of them. They come on and they go, not me, buddy. So when you think about sailors, we aren't right. You know, you get on. If you like it, you'll fall in love with it. If it's not for you, you won't be long doing it. We had a guy come on for 1 week, and he goes, oh, I gotta go home, my girlfriend, and you go, get out of here. You're not good. Because it's going to be that girlfriend or the next one or the next one. It's never going to do it. You have to be able to go out, you have to do your job, you got to trust, you got to have your head in the game. So there's a lot of things that's funny when you meet sailors. We're definitely a different breed, and for the most part, we're very loyal. We're very loyal to our crew members, we're very loyal to our friends, because when it comes to sea stories, we've had some weird, I've had many weird things. We've had stowaways on ships. The guys got on the ship in Kenya, they jumped on the boat and they went and hid down in the bilge to oil up here until the ship sailed and got away, and then they surfaced to try to get some food out of the galley at night, and they were caught by the crew. I've been involved in that. I've been involved in large oil spills. This ship was on fire. I led 200 guys into this ship to put it out. It had a belt fire in there. We did a very good job. I used 21 bottles of air. I was in there for 14 hours. It was minus 23 outside and as hot as it gets inside. I don't know, it's 2,000 degrees or whatever. It's crazy. Anyway, they built me that model for my efforts during that fire. And I was given a couple of recommendations. And it's funny, I taught firefighter, search and rescue, and survival for the Coast Guard, but I never really knew I was going to be in the ship fire. I didn't like it when I was in there at all. It was kind of a funky day for me. But we did save the ship, and it went out, and 2 years ago that ship went to scrap. So they sent that over to Italy, and they cut that all up, and if you're buying some of them new razors there you see on TV, that's probably what it is. Another funny story for you. This is the first ship that I was ever on. It's, I'm not going to tell you the name of it yet, because I was on ship the other day, a couple years ago, and there was a fella named Fitzy on the ship, and he was one of these, hard, I guess you can't say that, hard guy, and he was standing there steering, he's a wheelsman, and he liked to run the crew and everything. I saw he had this big ship tattoo on his leg, and I said to him, Fitzy, what do you got on your leg there? And he said, oh, that's the Saginaw. That was my first ship. And I thought, you know what, I might get my first ship tattooed across my back. That'd be pretty cool. And then I realized it was called the Seaway Queen. So just so you know, I don't have any tattoos. It's a funny story. When I was a young fellow, I had a diamond earring. My girlfriend and I got them. My dad said, "Get that earring out there. It's only going to get you in a fight. That's no earring." So anyway, I said, my mother, she stuck up for it. She's wonderful, right? She said, oh, don't worry about it, Bill. When he wants to take that diamond out, he'll give it to his mother. It's wonderful. And he said, at least. I said, oh, dang, he told me don't get tattoos, And he said, well, at least men get tattoos. Women got the earrings. So anyway, that was kind of a dramatic moment in my life when I was young. But I had a great childhood. I have a great career. It's fun. There's a couple guys in here who told me, I'll tell you a quick story about navigation. And there's a lot of them, trust me. The amount of near misses that we have is unbelievable. But it's because of the quality of the people that are on there that they aren't incidents. Because they're great big boats and they're moving in bad weather and heavy currents and in fog. And we have to stay dialed in to make it right. And you very rarely hear of an incident on the Great Lakes. Am I right? And that's to the guys. But trust me, when you're out there, you think, oh, I don't like that. Oh my gosh, because it's so easy. You think 12 knots isn't much speed. It's a lot of speed. And when you get up close to a wall, when I'm making a concrete wall, 1.5 knots, 1.3. I call it ramming speed, but yeah, we're checking, slow her down. And you have to be very careful. I was a young mate. I was on the ship, and I came up to relieve this other fellow. There was a sailboat. Somebody here told me that they're sailors, and they were way far away. Well, the sailboats just turn around, but we can't. So the fellow, he sees the sailboat there, and he goes to the wheels, and he goes, bring that over to starboard somewhere. The wheelsman goes starboard, he puts the wheel on. Well, the guy on the sailboat sees this big boat going, so he turned around and started going that way. And the guy goes, whoa, geez, look, he turned. Oh, just go to port there now, go to port. So the kid took the wheel, he put it to port, and the ship slowly starts coming. And now that it's closer, the distance is getting less. The guy on the sailboat, he turned around again, he went this way. He goes, whoa, hard to starboard. I said, keep it up, you're going to get him. You got to make one decision, and you got to stick with it. You go starboard, take it right around, turn in a circle, and go the other way if you have to. You can't keep closing your distance. And so for the people who are on small boats or fishermen or anybody that's out here, bear with us. We got a great big boat. We see you, but we don't know what you're going to do. We got to go because sometimes we have shallow water. I come out of Fairport last year, and there was a shallow spot, so I got to come out and I got to get inside that shallow spot to get around the lake. And I go by, and there's two guys in the fishing boat, and they go, you know, they did the great salute, you're the best sailor. And they said, we were here first. And I'm like, where do you want me to go? Should I beach the boat so you can catch that salmon? You know. Anyway, it's really funny when we're out there because we have all of these very interesting things every day. It's a new visual, it's a new story, it's a new something. And if you want to know what captains do, I figured it out. We got a great big crew beneath us. We babysit them. Because somebody's not happy about this, or this happened, or this guy. So you're always managing your crew, you're always trying to meet regulations, you're always trying to keep everybody safe. I would love for you to come on the ship. If you want to get some of these tickets, tell your friends, take some and sell them. These go, I'm going to tell you right now, there's a website called boatnerd.com. And it sounds funny, and it doesn't sound very professional. But if you go on that site, it is fantastic. It's nothing to do with me, it's nothing to do with my company. It's a site that was built by people who just like boats. And they follow us, and they take pictures. As a matter of fact, this one of the Saginaw and this one of the camp, a guy was up last year on St. Mary's River. We're going up towards Lake Superior. And his little boat pulled up, took a bunch of pictures, and then as we caught up, he drove ahead and he took some pictures, and then he went over there and took some pictures. So I went on the bridge and I said, hey buddy, you gotta get a better camera, you must have a good shot by now. And he laughed. Well anyway, about 3 or 4 weeks later, I get a box in the mail at the Detroit Marine Post Office with a bunch of pictures of my ship in it. And it was like, Captain, thank you so much. And I blew him a salute on the whistle. And so they were like all down there happy, but they were in love with the ships. So he sent me that, and then I told him I was on the camp, so he sent me this one. And I told him that the other captain on the ship would really, so he sent him a picture. So I got about 9 pictures out of the fella, which is really nice. But the people are interested. So if you go on boatnerd.com, you can read up on us. You can see that they have all kinds of information. There's a Great Lakes map, and you can follow ships where they go. It tells about the ship or what it's doing or what happens. And it's kind of like Big Brother to us because if something happens, heaven forbid, and not on my boat, please, but people will just see it, and then they go on Boat Nerd and they type in, oh, such and such a ship touched a buoy at such and such a place. Often the company finds out before we tell them. I have about 1,000 stories for you. I wish I had some more time. I'll tell you one story. I got one more for you. We were turning around in the Toledo River. I wasn't captain of the ship, I was mate, and I was there just filling in because the other fellow was on vacation. And we were turning, and the captain come up against the buoy. And I said to him, I said, 12 feet, 6, 8, it's out of sight there now, Cap. So on the radio, that doesn't sound like you hit it, that just sounds like it went out of sight, meaning I can't see it. But no, we touched it on the way around, and it hooked onto our bow thruster, and we dragged it. It never came out on the other side of the ship. I was looking at it, there's the cap. Then we didn't come back up. We sunk it, right? And we went down the Maumee River about 2 miles, and all of a sudden, bloop, up it came, right? So I went, oh, found the buoy, Cap. And he picked up the radio and goes, hello, Coast Guard? Yeah, I just want to report that buoy off station. And I was like, oh, what a guy. Anyway, if anybody's from Coast Guard in here, that happened 25 or 30 years ago. And I changed the name of the river to protect the innocent. Yes, you have a question?
I just wondered how long the trip would be if we win the prize.
On that voyage, I think.
If we win the prize.
Yes, I hope you do. The voyage, usually the trip is, I think they rate it from 6 to 10 days or 4 to 6 days or something. It's very loose because we can't control how far it goes on, right? Like, if you get, most of the trips, I hope you can get on a grain boat and go down the St. Lawrence River. That to me is the best trip. But you'd have to go up to the Welland Canal, join the ship, and then it takes about 3 or 4 days down, a couple days in port, and 3 or 4 days back up if there's no weather. And usually do them in the summer, so it'll be nice and sunny. Bring a lawn chair, book, and just enjoy the trip. It's people that go love it. They Facebook friend me, and then they have friends forever because they're like, what are you doing on the boat this year? Cruise change. It's not the same, right? I wish I could give you some more. I have several stories here, but I think I'm getting cut off. Let me stand here. The hook is coming. If any of you want to ask me some more questions or have a little fun, I'm going to take my jacket off. Oh, by the way, I don't dress like this on the ship. Blue jeans, I wear a nice shirt if somebody's coming down. This is basically married or buried, or if I'm doing a talk for someone. So that's about how that is. So it's very loose and easy, very comfortable. I'd like to thank you all for listening to me. I hope I put a smile on your faces, and I hope I taught you a little bit something about the boats. It's a great industry.